Here we go. It's Free Advice Friday time. Man, it's been a minute since I was live with you guys on YouTube. It was a very crazy month in March. VO Atlanta kept me busy. March break, spending time with my family. But here we are. We're back. We're ready to go live on Free Advice Friday. I'm looking forward to spending some time with you. Looking forward to being able to answer your business and marketing questions as always. So that's what's going to happen here for, the next hour or so, provided you guys want to hang out. Thank you for joining me on Good Friday. For those of you who celebrate Easter as well, I certainly appreciate it. So right off the top, I want to talk a little bit about Voice123. Now, I want to preface this by saying I am not an expert on Voice123, but I had the good privilege of interviewing Catherine and Natasha, the V123 pros, from my podcast. The new episode dropped yesterday. I strongly encourage you to give it a listen. It's available right here on the YouTube channel, and it's also available wherever fine podcasts are given away for free. You can listen to it on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or all the different places. It's everywhere. But I wanted to recap a couple of things that I thought were just incredibly insightful. And I'm not going to go fully in depth on these things because I really want to encourage you to go back, listen to the episode, and hear Catherine and Natasha explain them, because they certainly are going to explain things a little bit better than me. But there's three things that I learned from that episode that I thought, for anybody that is using the platform or thinking about using the platform, they were like, boom, light bulb moments for me. So the number one was, there's a real misconception on Voice123 that if you're not seeing the auditions you want to see, or if you're not seeing them at the times you want to see them. A lot of people complain about auditions coming in the middle of the night, for example. There's a misconception that you can just throw more money at it. So the idea is just, if you are, let's say you bought in at the $395 tier, but the auditions aren't coming when you want to see them. So you're encouraged to upgrade your membership, upgrade to the $888 level, which I know a lot of voice actors have upgraded to the $888 level. But the reality is that does not solve the problem, because where you see the auditions or where you come in the list doesn't have as much to do with the membership tier that you are on as much as it has to do with your percentile ranking, which is also another misconception. If you've got on the platform and you've dropped yourself into the bottom 50%, you can't just upgrade your membership and get yourself out of the basement. So there's a lot of people that I think that have been misled into throwing more money at the platform, and that's not actually the thing that is going to solve the problem. So that was the one insight that I took away, that I was like, wow, this is crazy, because I know that there are too many people that are doing the wrong thing. I know there are too many people that are getting told this lie that if you throw more money at it, that's going to fix it. And that is absolutely not going to fix it. So that was the first total light bulb moment for me from the episode. The second light bulb moment for me was the importance of researching the tier that you are going to sign up for. So Voice123 has a lot of tiers. You can get anywhere from free all the way up to a couple $1,000s a year. There's, I don't even know, like 8 or 10 tiers or something like that. Now, $395 is the most common tier. I would say probably after that, $888 is the one that a lot of people talk about. But one of the things that Catherine and Natasha pointed out, which I thought was incredibly insightful, was if you happen to be a really niche voice, then you may not actually need to buy in at one of those higher tiers. So that is to say, if you're a middle-aged white guy, there's probably a pretty decent amount of middle-aged white guys on Voice123. So there's a much greater competition pool in that category. On the flip side, if you have a really niche voice, like maybe you have a very senior sound, or maybe you have the ability to sound like a child, or maybe you speak a particular language, you may not actually need to even buy in at the $395 tier, because there might only be a handful of voices that fit those specs. And so you are not competing at the same level because there's not the same level of competition. And so I wonder how many niche voices have overspent thinking that that's what they needed to do in order to be able to get access, but it's not actually what they need to do because there's not the same number of voices competing. So I thought that was incredibly insightful. And again, in the interview, Catherine and Natasha dive much deeper into this. So I encourage you to check out the interview and really dive into what they had to say. But there's just a couple of things that I wanted to highlight, because if you haven't listened yet, I just want you to understand there's massive value in this interview with them. So that was the second insight. The third insight, which this will be the final one that I'll share, and then I'll get into your questions, and I'm looking forward to getting into your questions. And welcome, Jeff, Skylar, Natalie, Bob, Pam. Good to see you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Matt, TJ, Terry Briscoe in the house. Terry Briscoe and I aren't talking right now. We used to be friends, but we're not friends anymore because Terry Briscoe was talking smack about Dr. Pepper. And so, now we don't get to be friends anymore, but he's still invited to watch the YouTube channel. So it's fine. So the third profound insight was the importance of ratios. One of the misconceptions on Voice123 is that in order to stay out of the basement, that is, in order to stay out of the lower percentiles, you should be incredibly selective about the auditions that you are submitting, and you should submit just a very small number of auditions. And so there are a lot of voice actors who are seeing, 20 or 30 or 40 auditions coming in a day, but they might only submit 5 or 6 of those. And that's a misconception, because it's not the number of auditions that you submit that matters. It's the ratio of the auditions to likes that matter. So if 30 auditions come in on Voice123 on a given day that you match the specs for, and you submit 5 because you don't want to do too much, and of those 5 you get 1 like, then maybe you're going to be okay. But at the same time, if 30 auditions come in and you submit 20 and you get liked for half of them, you're fine too. So it's not exclusively the number of auditions that you submit, it's the ratio of auditions to likes. That's what matters the most. And so if you are currently getting a good level of audition to likes, if you've got that ratio where it needs to be and you're in a higher percentile, then you might actually be able to submit more auditions, provided you can maintain that ratio. And so I thought that was a really interesting insight. So if you're using Voice123, or if you've considered using Voice123, maybe you haven't signed up yet, man, I'm telling you, go back and listen to this episode. Again, it's available on this YouTube channel. You can go back, you can watch it on the YouTube channel. It's available on all the different podcasting platforms. It's available at VOpreneur.com right now. But it's a brand new episode, came out yesterday, how to use Voice123 with the V123 Pros. And I would strongly encourage you to give that one a listen. Jeff says, Dr. Thunder at Walmart may be better. Okay, so now Jeff and I aren't friends anymore either. So, we'll still let him hang out on the live stream. But yeah, no, Jeff just got cut off. We can no longer be friends. If you bring that kind of negative energy and blasphemy to my live stream, come on, man, we can't be friends after that. Come on, what's up with you guys? All in good fun, people, all in good fun. So it is Free Advice Friday. What I want to do is open up the floor, obviously, to your questions. Looking forward to diving into getting your business and marketing questions asked and answered. So if you do have a question that you would like to ask, I would please encourage you, if you put a Q before you type your comment, just, type a capital Q. That way it pops out a little bit easier for me in the chat, because there's a lot of messages that are obviously going through. So that Q just makes it a little bit easier for me to see it and recognize it. And the floor is open. If there are business and marketing questions that you would like to ask and answer, I am absolutely here and happy to answer those questions. Pam says, so it doesn't have to do with the number of bookings. It doesn't specifically have to do with the number of bookings, Pam, which I know sounds crazy, but yeah, it does not have to do specifically with the number of bookings. It has to do with the ratio of auditions to likes. So if you submit 10 auditions and you don't get any likes, that's bad. Here's the thing that makes it really stupid. If you submit 10 auditions and you book 2 of those jobs, but the client doesn't like your audition, that can actually still negatively impact you in the algorithm. The algorithm is not perfect. Let's just be very clear about that. The algorithm is not perfect, but that's one of the crazy things about it. You could submit 10 auditions and you could get 4 likes and no bookings and move up in the rankings, but you could submit 10 auditions, get 2 bookings and get no likes and actually move down in the rankings, which is incredibly frustrating. The system is not perfect. And I do give kudos to Voice123. They listen to the community. They've certainly made some changes along the way. They've made some corrections, some adjustments. I definitely still think that there's more work to be done. But that's also why I think that this course that Catherine and Natasha have put together, the V123 Pros course, is absolutely worth it if you're on that platform. And to be very clear, and we talk about this in the podcast as well, Catherine and Natasha are not affiliated with Voice123. They're just a couple of people who have figured it out. They've just dove deep into it and figured it out, and they understand how it works. And they're just trying to teach other voice actors how it works so that, hopefully you can get the most bang for your buck from the platform as well. Skylar says, for direct marketing follow-up emails, do you recommend staying on the same email chain or starting a new one? Also, do you drastically change the content of the messaging? Great question, Skylar. I think there's a couple of different approaches here. If we're talking about follow-ups where I have sent somebody an introductory email, but they have not responded to that email, so I'm sending a 1-week follow-up message, that I'm going to include in the same email chain because I want them to have that original email as a reference for, why I'm reaching out to them again. On the flip side, if we're talking about follow-ups with clients and prospects, so people who have expressed an interest in working with me, but we haven't, specifically worked together yet. They haven't hired me yet. Those follow-ups I'm generally doing as a separate and a new email. Stephanie says, a fellow VO told me she begs for likes. I believe it. And when I was on, I used to ask nicely and stress the importance of likes to VO talent. I don't know that clients want to be bothered. You absolutely have nothing to lose by asking for the likes. And I think that's something that a lot of people do encourage. And honestly, we have to ask for them. I say we, I'm not on the platform, but voice actors have to ask for them because a lot of clients don't specifically understand how the system is designed. And that's why a lot of them don't use it. And then the other thing is some of them use it as a way of creating their own shortlists or their own ranking systems. And so, it's entirely within the realm of possibility that a client listens to your audition and likes your audition, but because you just don't quite match up for what they're looking for that project, they don't give you the like. And so it doesn't even mean that you got a bad audition. And that's part of the challenge with it. So you gotta know how to play the game. Like really at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. You got to know how to play the game. So in light of your discoveries about V123, do you still recommend using them? And if so, what tier? All right, this is a really valid question. Here is my recommendation. I think that there are still a lot of really great opportunities on Voice123. I think if you are talking about quantity, it is one of the platforms that is going to give you access to the most audition opportunities. I think if you are talking about quality, there is a decent amount of quality auditions there. I think like many platforms, there's also some stuff that's not so great and should be ignored. But by and large, I think that it does give you access to a good number of auditions, and I think that a lot of those auditions can be really good. I love the fact that all they do is play matchmaker. You get to have direct communication with the client. If you want to move the client off the platform, you have the option to move the client off the platform. So if you book the job, the client becomes your client, not the platform's client. And that is not how some of the other sites work. So I think that Voice123 in that regard has a lot going for it. Here are a couple of words of caution if you are thinking about signing up for Voice123. Number one, you have to be booking and bookable because you are competing with really high value, high level talent. So you have to be booking and bookable. I do not think that this is a platform that anybody with a credit card and a studio should just sign up for. If you are not presently booking, this might not be the right place for you just because you're going to compete with a high level of talent. So that's number one. You have to be booking and bookable. Number two, I think that you have to understand how the site works. Now, the V123 Pros course is really great because it helps you to jump the learning curve. And that's important. If you want to spend the time to learn how to work the algorithm, the information is out there. There's, Voice123 has blog posts, and Voice123 has instructional posts and all of that sort of stuff. And you can go through and you can do all of that. But if you don't have time for that, the V123 Pros course is going to help you to jump the learning curve. And so I do recommend it. I just put a link in the chat if you want to check that out. Check out the course. I do think if you're going to spend the money on it, I think that it is absolutely worth investing in that course, because I think that course can help you get a return on your investment by explaining very much in detail how everything works. And the other thing I really like about the course is they are consistently updating the course, so it's always current. Now, to go back to the other question you asked, which is what tier should I buy in at? My recommendation, based on what I understand of the platform, is that you're actually better served to buy in at a lower tier. So, come in at the $395, for example, and use the site for a bit. If you're getting a decent ratio of auditions to likes, and if you are in an upper percentile, top 30, top 20, top 10%, then at that point, an argument could be made for upgrading. Maybe then you go up to a $600 tier or an $800 tier, and that will get you access a little bit sooner to jobs, but only because you're in a higher percentile. If you are in a lower percentile, like if you're in the bottom 40% and you upgrade, it's really not going to get you access to anything any sooner because you are in the lower percentile. So to answer that question again, I would say buy in it like the entry level, the $395 or whatever. Try it out. If you're making it work, then at that point you could look into upgrading. So that's something to keep in mind. All right. Lewis says, are casting agents using Voice123 always encouraged to like auditions? Can they dislike an audition or ignore it? They're not. To my knowledge, there is no way for them to dislike. There's no thumbs down, to my knowledge. I don't know how much they are encouraged to use it. I would say based on how frequently it is not getting used, I would say that they're probably not getting encouraged enough to use it. I definitely think that there's an education issue there where clients don't fully understand how much of an impact those likes have on the algorithm on the talent side. And so I definitely think that's one area where Voice123 could probably communicate a little bit better. True Voice Productions. I use VoiceZam and Zamtistics. I'm seeing the companies that have come to my website and downloaded demos. I was to target them, but I don't see who at the company is visiting. Any suggestions? If you can very clearly see that a company is coming and listening to your demos, based on the type of company, I think from there you could probably piece it together. So, for example, if it's a video production company, target a producer or an executive producer. If it's a commercial company, maybe it's a creative director or an executive producer. If it's an e-learning company, maybe it's an instructional designer or an e-learning developer or a project manager. So if you can see who the company is, you could use a tool like LinkedIn, for example, to try to start to figure out who's the best person at the company to reach out to. The other thing I would say is if a company is if companies are consistently coming to your website and downloading your demos, but you're not getting any kind of communication after the fact, I would look at your website to determine, is there a very clear call to action that is front and center above the fold? So what I mean by that is if I go to your website and your demos are up above the fold, which is great, but there's no clear call to action associated with those demos other than a navigation link for contact me, that might be one of the reasons why you are not getting follow through. So just to give you an example, this is my website. The VoiceZam player is here, but here's the big button right here, request an audition. Now, when you hit that button, it takes you to the form. That form is relatively easy to fill out, but then there's also my phone number, there's also my email address, there's my agent information there, so everything is right there and very clear. If you don't have this button, and I listen to your demos, and now I'm like, okay, and I'm scrolling, and not everybody's going to be willing to take that action. So I would encourage you to have some sort of a call to action button very close to your demos that is encouraging them to take whatever the next step is that you want them to take. And maybe that's to request a custom audition. Maybe that's to book a consultation with you. Maybe that's to, request a custom quote or whatever the case may be. But definitely, I think you should have some sort of a call to action there. Look, because I'm such a good guy, I'm going to answer Terry's question, even though he was talking smack about Dr. Pepper. What do you think about making it known you're with an agency when you've been... Oh, the question came off too soon. Sorry, let me bring that up again. What do you think about making it known you're with an agency when you've been hit-pocketed as opposed to being signed with them? If you just have like a trial with them, I would be very cautious about making it known. The question is, what is the value in making it known? If you're going to announce it on your social media, but you're announcing it to your social media, which is filled with other voice actors, then really the only reason you're announcing it is what? So people can pat you on the bum and say, good job. If you're announcing it to your existing clients, what is the value of announcing it to your existing clients? Because you want your existing clients to continue to work with you directly. My assumption is you want them to work with you directly and not to actually go to your agent. So is there any value in announcing it to your existing clients? Where the value can come from ultimately is, I think, is when you're able to put that on your website, and not everybody agrees with me on this, but I do think when you're able to put that on your website, or, you could announce it on your LinkedIn, for example, there is a level of credibility, I think, that comes with having agent representation. Some voice actors don't want to talk about their agent representation, or they don't want to publicly post information about their agent representation because they don't want potential clients to come to their website, see the agent information, and contact the agent instead of contacting the talent directly. Or they don't want to create a misconception where they can't contact the talent directly. They should only contact the agent. And so for that reason, some voice actors leave it out. And so I think there's arguments to be made either way. But I definitely think that there is a level of credibility that comes when you can say that you are represented or that you have representation. But in order to have that level of credibility, you got to make sure that you actually are represented or have representation. So if you've just got that trial right now, if they've given you 6 months to prove yourself or whatever, my advice right now is just get that booking and get signed. And then when you get signed, you've got something to announce. Actor and voiceover. What security protections do you have in place or recommend to prevent hackers from taking over your site or social media accounts? Finding more of these tendencies since starting in the VO biz. I use strong passwords across the board. I'm a big fan of 1Password. So that is a password vault application that you can get. And it generates unique, strong passwords for absolutely every single thing that I'm signed up for. And you would be surprised how many times your password is out there. I literally like hundreds of places where your password is out there. So I definitely use strong passwords. I do not duplicate passwords in any way. I don't need to with the 1Password app because it creates, again, those unique, strong passwords for everything, and it stores them all in a vault. I use two-factor authentication everywhere I have the opportunity to use two-factor authentication. Anytime I am outside of my studio and connected to the internet, so public Wi-Fi, hotels, airports, restaurants, coffee shops, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I always use a VPN. So those are some of the things that I'm doing. I just threw a link in the chat for a podcast episode that I did. It's actually at the end of 2022, but I think all of the information in it is still absolutely relevant to this day. And it was how to protect your business from cyber threats. And it's actually, believe it or not, I'm 253 episodes into the Everyday VOpreneur podcast, the #1 downloaded episode by a huge margin. Think about the people I've had on the show. Jay Michael's been on the show. Cliff Zellman's been on the show. Uncle Roy, George Whittam, like some of the best have been on the show. The #1 episode by a wide margin is this episode that I just put in the chat, which is how to protect your VO business from cybersecurity threats. So check that out. Reed Montague is a voice actor. He's also somebody who works in the cybersecurity space and gave tons and tons of really valuable information, including some of the things that I just mentioned. But those are some of the things that I'm doing. Briscoe says, is there an equivalent of the V123 Pros for Bodalgo? There's not, but that's because Bodalgo doesn't need it. The reality of Bodalgo is you just sign up. There's no algorithm that you have to fart around with. There's no, secret tips or tricks or hacks that you have to understand. You can't get punished on bodalgo if you audition too much or anything like that, which is part of the beauty of bodalgo. That's part of the value proposition of bodalgo. You sign up and you submit, and that's it. You sign up and you submit. It's a connection service. bodalgo plays matchmaker. They don't get involved. They don't take commissions. There's no escrows and all of that sort of stuff. They are literally just matching voice actors to voice buyers, and doing a fantastic job of it as well. Liz says the V123 Pros course has been enormously helpful in getting my samples set up effectively, still working on it. And that's one of the big things that Catherine and Natasha talk about in the course. That was one of the big changes that took place in the platform recently, was how the samples get done. And so that is one of the things, if you want to learn, that's one of the things that they teach you in the course. Jeff says, if someone decides to join a P2P, do you think it's better to join a large one with a huge pool of talent with many auditions, or a smaller one that has less auditions but less competition? Right now, I would say that there is less than a handful of legitimate online casting platforms that are out there. There are a lot of online casting platforms, but I think there's less than a handful that are truly legitimate. Voice123, I think, is one of the good ones. Big site, way more opportunity, higher competition level, but still, because of the sheer volume of work, I think, a good voice actor, a good professional voice actor with the ability to do the thing, still has a shot. bodalgo is filled with top-tier voice actors, Armin, vets, everybody that gets on there. You cannot just sign up for bodalgo just because you have demos. You have to be vetted. So you are definitely dealing with a higher competition level on bodalgo. Not as many opportunities from a quantity standpoint, but all quality opportunities, which is a good thing. VOPreneur, I would say, is very similar. Not a ton of jobs being posted on that site, but quality jobs. The jobs are vetted. And again, you're competing with the best of the best. Voices.com, tons of auditions. I would say right now, maybe not the same level of competition. And I would say that because a lot of the higher tiered talent, or people who I would consider to be higher tiered talent, left the site years ago because of some of the business practices of voices.com. And a lot of them are not willing to come back until they see certain things change. So I would say, strictly speaking, from a quantity standpoint, voices.com is probably right there with Voice123. From a quality standpoint, I think it's a mix. I think you're going to see some good stuff. I think you're going to see some junk. I think you got to be very careful, very selective, but maybe not quite the same higher level of competition at this point. Now, if voices.com that makes some of the changes that they say they're going to make, that could change. Voquent would be another one, although it's not really a pay-to-play. It's more of a directory. Limited number of opportunities, but everything that's on there, I think, is legit. Again, that's kind of it. As far as I'm concerned, that's kind of it. I mean, yeah, there's your Mandys and your Fivers and some of these other places, but I mean, some of them I just don't know that they're necessarily worth your time, because I don't know that there's a lot of opportunity or a lot of good opportunity out there. So that would be something that I would be thinking about as well. Pam says, if you have a commercial demo but would like to break into another genre like e-learning but don't have samples other than maybe an audition and no budget for another demo, any recommendations? It's tough, Pam, because the reality is that everybody else who's competing for those genres do have e-learning demos, or they do have the samples at the very least. And generally speaking, if you're marketing yourself in, you mentioned e-learning, so let's specifically talk e-learning. If you're marketing yourself in the e-learning space, I think that most of the e-learning providers at this point have gotten used to being able to hear custom e-learning demos, or at the very least, custom e-learning samples, because e-learning is not the same as commercial as far as the read, the style, etc. The only thing that you might be able to do in the interim until you can get some samples or a demo put together, not the only thing, but probably the best bet is strategically marketing your commercial demo. So look for companies who do commercial work, but maybe they also offer training videos. Because if you can use your commercial demo to get your foot in the door with them, if they'll, listen to your commercial demo, like it, put you on the roster, then even though you only gave them a commercial demo, they might give you the opportunity to audition for some of those training videos. And so that might open up a door. So that's something that you might want to take into consideration. That's one way that you could potentially work around it. Again, welcome to Free Advice Friday. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. I appreciate it. I'm certainly happy to answer as many of your questions as possible. If you do have a question that you would like to answer, you can just put a Q beside it when you type it in the chat. It'll pop out on my screen a little bit easier, and I'm certainly going to do my best to get through as many questions as possible. I did want to mention VoiceOver Marketing Playbook is coming out next week. I'm very excited about it. Playbook will be available from April 2nd to the 11th. This is my flagship marketing program. It's about an 8-hour-long course that is going to teach you how to find your own leads, build your own client base, and become the consistently working voice actor that you want to be. I cannot stress enough that Playbook is not filled with fluff and rah-rah. Playbook is filled with actionable, practical advice. I'm all about the actionable, practical advice. Do this, say this, look here, here's what to search, here's what to type, all of that sort of stuff. It's very actionable, practical advice. So you can go to voiceovermarketingplaybook.com right now. And when you go to voiceovermarketingplaybook.com right now, you'll notice that the playbook information isn't there quite yet, but you can join the playbook waitlist. So enter your name and your email address at voiceovermarketingplaybook.com. I'm going to send you a free guide for marketing with testimonials. Very helpful tips in there. But you will also be on the Playbook waitlist, so you will be the first to get notified when Playbook comes out. And again, that is coming out next week. So get on the waitlist and grab that free guide and be ready for Playbook when it comes next week. You can sign up at voiceovermarketingplaybook.com. That's voiceovermarketingplaybook.com. Stevie says, do you think VO will still be a viable career for non-top 3 to 5% from 2030 to 2050 because of AI? Think we'll be fine the next 7 to 10 years. But after that, I don't know. Plan on keeping stable job because it's too uncertain. Anybody that gives you a definitive answer on that question is lying or probably full of crap, in my non-expert opinion. I don't know. I would love to be able to tell you that I know, but I don't know. 2 years ago, end of 2021, I participated in with a company in building an AI voice model. And I recorded for about 40 hours, 30 or 40 hours, to give them everything that they needed to build that AI voice model. That was in December of 2021. In November of 2023, so, 2 years later, Karin Gilfrey at the Mavo conference demonstrated how with 12 seconds of audio, an AI voice model could be created that was even better than the one that I created in 2021 with 40 hours worth of content. So the technology is changing very quickly. Obviously, that's something that I'm paying attention to. The other thing that I'm paying attention to is where I am seeing AI used. In most cases, it still sucks. And I say that in all seriousness. I don't say that because I'm a voice actor. It just doesn't sound good. And I'm seeing a lot of people who are saying the same thing. Here are a couple of things that I believe to be true today. What is it? March 29th, 2024. Here are a couple of things that I believe to be true. Not that this is going to specifically answer your question, but hopefully it's helpful. Number one, I believe that the voice actor has the best shot at longevity. The voice actor. Not the voiceover, not the voice talent, the voice actor. As AI technology continues to improve, maybe they'll have the ability to train it how to act. I don't know. But right now, your acting ability, your ability to engage in a script, to interpret a script, to tell a great story, to connect with an audience, your acting, that is the thing that is going to build longevity. So I would recommend to anybody that is in voiceover at this point that at least a part of your training budget every year should be set towards acting, learning how to act, learning how to be a voice actor. So that's one thing I believe to be true. Another thing that I believe to be true is that AI is here and it is not going away. And so I think that a second way that voice actors will be able to create longevity is by embracing the technology. If I am marketing and I come across a company who says, we no longer use voice actors, we only use AI, then I want to be able to say, okay, fine. If you only use AI, I understand. Here's my AI voice. Because if somebody's going to get paid, why not be me? So for the voice actor who is willing to embrace the technology, recognizing that no matter what we do and no matter what we say, there will always be a certain segment of the population that will use AI, then if somebody's going to be using AI, give me a piece of that pie. And I say that in the same way that I say that there will always be people who pay high budget GVAA or union rates and book through reputable agents, just like there will always be people who lowball everything and go through Fiverr. You can't change that. There will always be people who will want to work with humans. There will always be people who are just going to take the technology because it's good enough or it's just strictly a budget issue. So that's the second thing that I believe to be true. In order to create longevity, I think that we should be looking for ways to potentially embrace it and monetize it for our business and for our benefit. The third thing that I believe to be true is there is a trust factor in all of this. I've talked about this before. When I hear AI in a commercial or an ad, I wouldn't even say commercial, in an ad, when I hear it in a video, I am immediately skeptical of that content. There is a trust factor that just doesn't exist when you are using a synthetic voice. And I do think that that is going to be a factor. I don't know how big of a factor, but I do think it's going to be a factor. And I think it becomes a value proposition for the human voice actor because people just genuinely are skeptical of AI voices, at least for now. That is absolutely going to change over time as we get more used to it, as it's put in front of us more, as we become more comfortable with it. But at least for now, we're skeptical and we have trust issues when it comes to that side of things. So that is the third thing that I believe to be true. There's a skepticism. The fourth thing that I believe to be true is that there's a level of shiny new object going on right now. For those of you that follow the stock market, maybe some of you do, last year, early last year, it would have been the end of the fiscal quarter for 2023. So, January, February, March of 2023. There was a lot of talk in the markets that if you did not mention AI in your earnings report, your stock was going to get killed. And it did not matter if you were a technology company or a grocery store or a shoe retailer. If you did not mention AI, your stock was going to get killed. There was also a running joke of, playing drinking games on earning reports where you had to take a drink every time somebody mentioned AI, and you'd probably die of alcohol poisoning by the end of the earnings report because it was just such a buzz. There was so much hype around it. And keeping in mind, this is when ChatGPT was really starting to be embraced and take off. So there's this shiny new object thing. Nobody wants to get left behind. Companies have to talk about it or they look like they're getting left behind. And so I think there's a certain, at least right now, I think there's a certain percentage of people who are just playing with it because they feel like they have to. But I can tell you from personal experience that some of the people that are playing with it are realizing that it's not all it's hyped up to be, at least yet from the synthetic voice standpoint. So they're experimenting with it, realizing that it's not really that great, and either coming back to humans or sticking to humans. Now, I know that doesn't specifically answer the question exactly as you asked it, Stevie, but I will not try to predict the future. I will just tell you the things that I believe to be true right now, and we make decisions and place our bets based on those things that we believe to be true right now. So maybe that's helpful, but that's definitely what I'm thinking about. Liz says, I use LastPass on PC and Android. Another great password vault. Absolutely. 1Password works across all the different platforms. It integrates on my phone. It integrates on my computer. It integrates with my browser. LastPass does the exact same thing. So either one of those are absolutely solid. Jenna says, although I booked a number of jobs on Voice123, those clients didn't like my audition on the platform. I have asked for a review during the booking process. Please advise. There's not a whole lot that you can do, unfortunately. You could potentially reach out to Voice123 through the help desk. And if you can confirm to them that you booked that job, maybe they have a way of going in and marking it. But this is exactly the point that I was making earlier. That's part of the flaw with the system. You can actually book the job and still get punished by the algorithm just because you didn't get the like. And it's part of the reason why the system is broken, and part of the reason why there's such a frustration among voice actors. Do you feel the industry is still growing in reference to new VAs coming in? I'm hearing that the market is flooded, but I'm also seeing tons of people selling their equipment. I think I can only speak to my personal experience. I can tell you that I am still seeing new people on a regular basis. I'm still seeing, now, I don't know how new. I can't always tell, but I can look at my email list, for example, and the growth trends of my email list. And I can see that there's always people coming in and there's always people falling off. Do I think that we're seeing the same massive influx that we saw in 2020? No, I don't think so. Do I think that some of the people that are selling their gear are some of the people that massively influxed in 2020? Yes, I think so. And I think there's probably a couple of reasons for that. I would say one, there was a lot of people that came in 2020 because they lost their jobs or they got quarantined or, they couldn't go to work anymore or whatever. And they thought that this was going to be something that was easy for them to do. And so they decided to give it a shot, and they spent all their government checks on buying all of their equipment or whatever, but then they just didn't have the chops to do it. And now they're giving up and they're selling all of their stuff. I think the other side of that is some of these people probably got called back to work. Maybe they sat at home for a year or even 2 years, but we're seeing more and more and more, coming back to the office and getting back to in-person and all of that sort of stuff. And so I think that there's a distinct possibility that some of those people are getting called back to the office, and so they don't have the freedom and flexibility to do voiceover anymore. And so they're coming back. I think for as long as I have been in this industry, though, there has been people who have been sold a dream that is not necessarily based on a reality. They try it for a season, realize that it's not as easy as they thought, or that it doesn't come as quickly as they had hoped or they had been told, and so then they move on. And so I think I think we're always going to see that to a degree. Define bookable. I have booked work, some good, some not so good. I have a website. I have some of the lower tier sites by your assumed definition. I've done an assortment of work. Bookable just means that on any given day, do you feel that you can go on to, do you feel that you are in competition, legitimately in competition for the work that is out there? I think a lot of it has to do with your training as well. If you've never worked with a coach, then you may book work because you get lucky or you just happen to find the right opportunity. but you're probably not well, no, I'm not even going to say probably. You're not bookable at the same level as somebody who's done dozens of hours of training. In the same way that, a surgeon does things that a general practitioner can't do because they've got that many more hours of training. And it doesn't mean that one's better than the other. It just means that's the reality of the world and the way it works. But I think that part of how you prove you're bookable is also by booking, but I think it depends on the types of jobs that you're booking. I mean, there's a lot of people who could go onto Fiverr and book on Fiverr, but that does not mean that they're going to come over and book on VOPlanet. And it does not mean that they're going to book with DPN or Atlas. And to be clear, I don't book with DPN or Atlas. Different levels of competition, different levels of skill. All of those sorts of things come into play. So I think, but that's, I would say, defining the definition of bookable. Have you booked? Do you feel that you are genuinely in contention? And can you compete with the level of talent that is going to be on some of these sites? Those who claim that we will not be negatively affected by AI, I think, are just trying to be optimistic despite their own doubts. I have said all along, I've tried to be a realist. I can tell you from conversations that I've had that there are voice actors who were six-figure earners on Fiverr who are no longer six-figure earners on Fiverr because the jobs have... those lower tier jobs have started to go away. If I'm paying somebody $25 or $50 to do a voiceover, $50 is $50 if I can get AI to do it and it's good enough. And so I have said that all along. I think it will come for the lower tier stuff first. I think those, low budget jobs or those jobs where we don't need it to be great, we just need it to be good enough. And to be clear, I'm not picking on Fiverr. I'm just saying I have specific examples from sites like Fiverr. I think it's going to be the same on online casting platforms like Voice123 or voices.com as well. I think those lower tier jobs are the ones that are going to go away first. But that's where I come back to saying I think that the actors are the ones that will have the greatest longevity. Talk to me in a year. I could be completely proven wrong. I just don't know. Or in 10 years, I could still be sitting here doing Free Advice Friday with you, and I hope that I am. And, we're all still happily booking voiceovers and working right alongside of the robots. I just don't know. TJ says, is that your new award behind you? Yes, it is. You can see it. How do I aim my thumb? Oh my gosh, I'm terrible at this. Right there. Yes. That is the award that I got at VO Atlanta, which was a complete shocker, by the way. Thank you for noticing, TJ. I appreciate it. Jenna says there is a tremendous push in the intelligence community to solidify and improve AI. I think that might be a safe place to delve into AI. What do you think? At this point, for the moment, I come back to my thoughts from earlier, which is the voice actor that is willing to embrace the technology has the opportunity to create longevity for themselves. If you can find a place where you can create an AI voice model that you own, and this is the key, that you own. Remember Nava's big three: control, consent, and compensation. If you can create an AI voice that you own, that you have control over, that requires your permission to be able to use, so you get to decide where it goes and where it doesn't go, and you are able to work out fair compensation for the use of said model, I think that for the enterprising VOpreneur, that can create a passive income stream that could outlive you. And I say that in all seriousness. I have thought about how I create an AI voice model that I own, that gets used for now. One day when I'm ready to retire, it creates a passive pension for me. And one day when I'm gone, that voice and the rights to that voice get signed over to my kids in a company or something like that. And it creates an income stream for them as well. Like, those are legitimately some of the things that I'm thinking about right now. Now, I will tell you, I haven't cracked the nut yet, but those are some of the things that I'm thinking about. My first coach recently told me I'm the only one from my group that stuck with it. Man, I'll tell you what, sometimes that in and of itself is a big deciding factor. You've got to just have, gumption sounds like such a dumb word, but you've got to have the gumption. You've got to have the persistence. You've got to have the consistency. Now, is consistency and persistence alone enough? No, it's not. There are some people who can be the most consistent and persistent people in the entire face of the planet, but if you don't have the skill, it doesn't matter. But if you have the skill and you have the consistency and you have the persistence, then you're like me and you'll be doing fine. Liz says the other issue with VoiceZam123 is that people can book you directly without an audition, so there is no audition to like, but hey, as long as the payment clears. At least in that instance, it doesn't impact your ratio. But I see what you're saying. Could you please speak on the value of working with a manager who requires 10% of everything? Oh, crap. All right. Let's be diplomatic and politically correct here. I would say for the vast majority of voice actors, it's probably a scam. I have no problem giving my agent their cut from the jobs that they get for me. But why in the world, let's just say I'm a 6-figure voice actor, okay? Just for the fun of it. Let's say you're a 6-figure voice actor. You're making $100,000 a year. And a manager comes and says, I want to represent you. I need 10% of everything. So before that manager has done one stinking thing for you, you've paid them $10,000 because you got to give them 10%. And let's say at the end of the year that manager brings you one job for $1,000. So there goes another $100 out of your pocket. Why in the world should a manager be entitled to 10% of $100,000 that I brought to the table before we even had a relationship? Now, not all managers are created equal, and I understand that. There are other benefits that some managers bring to the table that others don't. But it's a legitimate question that you have to ask yourself. If you are an established voice actor, particularly, why in the world does somebody deserve a percentage of your income that they had absolutely nothing to do with? I don't have a good answer to that question. Now, if after I sign with them, they're going to take over all of my accounting, they're going to do my tax returns, they're going to, whatever. If they're going to add value in some way, then that's a different conversation. But a lot of the managers that we're seeing out there right now, pretty much the only thing they're doing is getting you access to auditions. In which case, they're not a manager, they're an agent. I'll give you a cut of whatever I get through you, but I see no reason why I should give you a cut of what I got on my own. So for me, a lot of it has to do with the value proposition. What else, if anything, are they bringing to the table? That's the question that I would be asking. All right, let's see. Oh, look, Terry's trying to kiss up again, even after talking smack about Dr. Pepper. It was amazing to be in the house for that moment, Mark. No one deserves it more. You know, my wife, she asked me afterwards, she's like, so what did you say? And I'm like, I have no idea. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I have no idea what I said. I said, I got up there. I was in shock. I was freaking out a little bit inside because I was nervous. And I'm like, I got up there and I said, I know I said some stuff. I think I did. I said, I remember hugging J. Michael. I was like, I have no idea what I said. I don't know. Maybe there will be a replay. I don't know. Be able to go back and watch it later. All right, let's see. What else is going on? Thank you guys, everyone. Everett Oliver coming in. Moose coming in. Get compensated for it. Sorry, he was talking about I have a client who I did long form work with. Let me bring this up. I hit the wrong button. Let me bring up Moose's original statement. I have a client who I do long form work with. We have a triple seed on AI that allows them to use my AI voice for supplementing my work. He said them instead of them type thing. Okay. So he's got it. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Moose has got a voice and he's using it. He's getting compensated. He's got control over it. He's got a solid deal with a client. Perfect. That's the way that you want to do it if you're going to do it. Consent, control, and compensation. Remember those things. You have to have, more than anything, you have to have control over it. You got to have control over where it goes, what it gets used for. Everett says, stop thinking and just do it. That applies to so many different areas of our lives. That is a mind-blowing thought about creating an AI service for ourselves. I interviewed Ann Ganguza on the podcast. Her episode is going to come out next week. And Ann is very, very heavily ingrained in the AI space, incredibly smart. She was one of the very first people in the industry to start talking about it. Like 2 years ago, she was interviewing all the players in the AI game on her VO Boss podcast. And we go into it pretty in depth in the interview that's coming out next week. And that's one of the things we talk about. I'm like, I said in the interview, I'm like, look, I could be wrong. Time will tell. But I feel like we're 1 or 2 years away from getting to a point with the way technology is moving right now where I could literally have an AI that I host on my own server in my home and have complete control over it. Maybe I'll be proven right. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I don't know, but it's definitely something that I think about. Look at Uncle Roy's in the house now too. Speak your truth, Mark. Preach. Everett, always being an encourager. I feel like I'm in a Sunday service, he says. Oh, Everett, I love you, man. Thanks for coming by. All right, I got time for one more question. This went fast. Holy man. I know we haven't done Free Advice Friday for a while, and I do apologize for that. March was a really, really crazy month. April is going to be very unpredictable. There's a baby coming, not supposed to be coming until later in April. Although if my wife had her way, the baby would be coming like yesterday. So April's schedule is going to be a little bit more unpredictable, but I will definitely try to fit in some Free Advice Fridays where I can. But it's been fun to hang out with you guys today. For those of you that jumped in late, remember that you will be able to go back and watch the replay. So that's an option. All the live streams exist on the YouTube channel, so you can always go back and watch those replays later, getting some good information. And I will go back and add chapter markers as well. So that will link you straight to all the different questions that were asked and answered. You know, if you don't want to sit down and watch the entire hour, but you should, you know, it'd make me feel good if you sat down and watched the entire hour. But by the way, guys, hit the like button, please. Hit the like button. 55 of you watching the live stream right now, but less than half of you have hit the like button. I take it personally a little bit. Makes me a little bit sad. So come on, give me a like on the channel if you've enjoyed the live stream today. If you've picked up any helpful tips or information, I would certainly appreciate it. Anybody got one final question? Oh, Sabi says, mind getting to my question, please. Okay, Sabi, I missed your question. Let me see if I can scroll back and find it. Oh, here we go. Why would you want a manager over an agent? So again, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. The biggest thing for me is what else is the manager going to do? If you look at the legal definitions, a manager is supposed to guide your career, but they're not supposed to specifically give you access to auditions. An agent is there to get you access to auditions. So managers might make introductions to get you agents. Managers might help you get on the radar of certain people or in certain industries and that sort of stuff, but they're technically not supposed to bring you the actual auditions. The way it works now, there are managers out there who are basically just acting as managers, there are managers out there now who are acting as agents, but calling themselves managers so that they can take that 10% across the board. My whole thing is, if you are a manager who is taking 10% across the board, you have to be doing more for me than just bringing me auditions. And so that's the thing that I would be looking at. If you're looking into a manager, what else are they going to do? Are they going to assist you with accounting? Are they going to assist you in business development? Are they going to work with you on branding and marketing strategies? Are they going to provide legal advice for you when you need help negotiating contracts or all these sorts of things? And there are managers out there who do that stuff, just to be very clear. But it's up to you, the voice actor, to do the research to make sure that you are getting signed up with and connecting with the right people. But I would say in most instances, for most voice actors, you don't necessarily need managers, you need agents. You need a couple of good agents strategically spread across your country or your geographic location that's going to get you access to a wide range of auditions. But you need that in addition to other strategies for getting auditions like online casting, direct marketing, etc., etc. All right, everyone, I got to wrap this one up because I got some stuff I got to do this afternoon, but thank you so much for hanging out as always. I certainly appreciate it. Remember, Voiceover Marketing Playbook is back next week, April 2nd through the 11th. Playbook will be available. If you are interested, sign up now at voiceovermarketingplaybook.com to get on the wait list. I'm going to send you the VOpreneur guide to testimonials, absolutely free, a very helpful guide for tips on using testimonials in your marketing, and you will be the first to get notified when Playbook is actually available for purchase. So again, you can sign up for that at voiceovermarketingplaybook.com, voiceovermarketingplaybook.com. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you hanging out. Always good to spend time with you. Enjoy your Easter if you celebrate. Eat some chocolate bunnies and turkey for me. I'm going to be smoking one here on Sunday. Whatever you decide to do this weekend, though, have fun, stay safe, and as always, go find some leads.